Welcome to this week's End of Days Update, coming to you from Tulsa, Oklahoma. We had such a great time in Amarillo last weekend. We're at Arena of Life Church. First time we'd been there, had a wonderful time. If you are anywhere near the North Carolina region, in Charlotte, around that area, we'll be at Encounter this Saturday night. And then Sunday night, we'll be in Clemens, North Carolina, at Agape Faith Church. So come be with us. We'll have a great time. It's good to have more than 10 to 15 minutes. You have a little more of a service. So we're coming to you every week to look at the different things that point to the Ezekiel 38 war, because the rapture is signless, but the second coming has tons of signs. So we're living so close to the coming of the Lord. I heard people say, wow, I wish I lived in Bible days. You are living in Bible days. Absolutely amazing. That things prophesied 2,700 years ago, 2,000 years ago, coming to pass right in front of our eyes. We're going to look back at this season and go, man, how could we have been there at the most wonderful time of all? What's so wonderful about it? It's the time of the return of the King, the earth bowing in adoration to Jesus of Nazareth. He was beaten the first time. This time every knee is going to bow, every tongue is going to confess that He's Lord, to the glory of God the Father. So remember when Jesus came into the Gadarenes, the area of the Gadarenes, the madman Gadara possessed, the demons yelled out, hey, Jesus, are you come to torment us before the time? Well, they knew that Jesus was on a schedule, but He was early. So if demons can know the schedule, how much more the church should know? Paul said, you're not in darkness, that day would overtake you as a thief. So the Holy Spirit's pretty bold there in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 that we would know it. So I hear people all the time saying, well, you're just doing this because of an escape theology. No, it's about seeing how close we are to the finish line. You run faster. It's a hustle mentality because we can see the finish line. So we'll get into some stuff today that is pretty remarkable happening with really a lot happening with the UN, a lot happening with Russia. And let's start with Israel. Wow, still no ceasefire. You had from Hezbollah from the north, yesterday you had 45 rockets fire into northern Israel. And then after that, you had about 30 fired at Mount Meron in the central part of Israel. And then you had another 15 down in the western Galilee. Israel took out almost 100 and some odd rocket launchers. So the thing that was said after that was Gallant, the defense minister, said, hey, prepare for a ground operation. So really soon we're going to see Israel go in there and take care of business, because they have to stop this. This is crazy, just having every single day rockets fire at Israel. And it's going to be interesting to see how forceful they are about that, because in 2006 they weren't really bold enough, and this was just going back and forth. I think Israel's going to do something absolutely bizarre. So a lot happening with the UN. Man, you had the UN bringing forth declarations. There's this big summit they're going to have, like the 27th and 28th. They're bringing out all these, Palestinian authorities bringing all these declarations. One of them brought in one that's going to go before the council to completely destroy and eliminate Israel from being in a nation. I mean, that's that crazy that you could even bring that to their secretary summits like that. Another one was they're calling on Israel to completely remove from the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, and take 500,000 Jews that are already there and take them away. So just bizarre verbiage coming from the UN. It was interesting that one of their ministers was caught on camera saying the UN is about to become its own government. Listen to that feeling of pushing for its verbiage for its own government. Why? That's a setup for the Antichrist, just like the United States of Europe is. So pretty crazy when you see verbiage coming out like that, because it just shows us that Jesus is just about to come. So many more things when it comes to the UN, but it's intriguing to see what's going on with Iran. Russia came out and said, we're so glad with our wonderful relationship with Iran. Why? Russia just got a massive shipment of short-range ballistic missiles from Iran. And that kind of freaked a lot of the defense ministers from all the nations around the world. Even our own CIA director here in the United States said this is a troubling alliance together with Russia. This is what he said, these nations. He said with Iran, with Russia, with China and North Korea. So there's a strengthening of an alliance for military work and defense work, literally the players for the Ezekiel 38 war. You see the verbiage coming out of that, just absolutely remarkable. So you've got that going on in the midst of all this, and it's like, man, this shows me Jesus is just about to come. You had a lot of stuff with meteorites this last week. Man, there's a lot of stuff happening with the sun. Many more things happening with Israel, though. You see the changes coming, pushing them to do what they have to do. Israel went into northern Syria in the last couple of days and did an airstrike. 15 people were killed and about 46 people were injured. They were like, okay, what was the deal about that? Well, it was a known chemical weapons plant. So Israel's having to take these things out, just like it had to do every week They had to go up into Syria, really on the edge of Damascus, to take out all those missile batteries that were coming down from Iran into northern Lebanon. So boy, Lebanon's getting ready to have a change coming. Israel's getting ready to have to do some things that it used to not do. But right now you've got Israel having to deal with terrorists in the West Bank, having to deal with Hamas, because Hamas is still firing rockets, then having to deal with Hezbollah. Then you got the Houthis firing missiles over from Yemen. And now you have rocket launchers and chemical weapons plants that Syria is trying to use to help Iran. All this stuff is leading to, this pressure leads up to, Jesus is just about to come. Now the Pope went to the largest Muslim nation this last week and formed an alliance. They called it an Esau and Ishmael alliance against Israel. So you have Turkey coming out saying, calling on Islam to have an alliance to literally destroy Israel. So you've got the Pope calling for that, Turkey calling for that, the UN General Assembly calling for all this. So man, it's all those groups are coming together to annihilate Israel. So we're blessed. Wow. So what do? We look at the word. The word always says this. Number one, Israel made a nation. Number two, Jerusalem won back. Hebrew language restored. Ethiopian Jews brought back. Fertility of the land of Israel. Revival of the Roman Empire. I mean, you got foxes showing up on the Temple Mount. You got fish showing up in the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea turning blood red where Sodom and Gomorrah was. That's crazy on the Day of Atonement. So the ritual baths around the Temple Mount filling up with water. You have all these signs. You got the red heifers that are there that they weren't clipped. Their ears weren't clipped because of COVID, so they're okay. Sign after sign after sign, 172 different species of predatory birds showing up on the land. You had foxes show up on the Temple Mount. So you got the Temple Mount Institute in position in Israel to have everything ready for sacrifices. So you got Russia in place, fish in place, birds in place, and the nation of Israel set up to literally go through this 7-year period for pressure to be on them to accept Jesus as the Messiah. Wow. And you go from that, from signs, tons more signs, but you go from signs to signals. You had the blood red moons on Passover and Tabernacles, 4 in a row. When's the last time you had that? NASA calls it a tetrad. The last time you had that was in 1967 when Jerusalem was won back, 1948 when Israel was made a nation, and 1492 at the Edict of Expulsion when the Jews were kicked out of Spain. So wow, heavenly activity corresponding with amazing major things happening with the nation of Israel. And then you had the Bethlehem star, Jupiter, Regulus, Venus coming together at the birth of Jesus. The constellation was Virgo. And this last year you had that again, celestial sign, Bethlehem star, Jupiter, Regulus, Venus. What was the constellation? Leo. He's the lion of the tribe of Judah. So wow, what do? Help our local church, help our local pastor. We're engaged, we're involved. I always say it, we don't fit church into our life, it is our life. Why? Jesus is just about to come back. Wow, we are living in the hour of the Ancient of Days to come back to the earth. Wow, how cool is that? Back up 7 years from that, and you got the rapture of the church. We're about to be caught up, we're about to be changed. Exciting times, not weird, not strange, very scary for the world, but there is no bad news for the Christian. So it's a wonderful time for us to do the will of God. We'll come back this next Wednesday and we'll see what else happens. So many things are happening with that UN thing. There's many more declarations being brought forward that it's hard to get into all of them in one time, but man, we'll talk about more of them next week. Have a blessed, wonderful week. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks for joining us today at the End of Days Update. If you'd like to be notified every time there's a new post, just go to the edu at josephmorris.com and subscribe to receive email alerts. If these posts and updates have been a blessing to you, please consider making a one-time donation to help get the message out, or even becoming a monthly partner with Joseph Morris Ministries. Thanks again for tuning in to the EDU, and we'll see you next week.